With the economy, how long do you think it's going to take Trump to get these prices down?
Goodness gracious, that's a good question. I'm hoping as soon as possible. I just left and went to the grocery store before I came up here, and paying $7-8 for a carton of eggs is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
You should have waited until after the
Literally tomorrow.
Well, my kids are at home, so they need eggs, okay?
Where are you in from today?
Texas, Houston, Texas.
How much did it cost to get out here?
Oh my goodness, we spent a grip, but it was well worth it.
Hey friends, Governor Abbott was in town yesterday announcing his reelection. And while he's busy campaigning, Texans are struggling just to get by. Meanwhile, billionaires like Elon Musk are about to become trillionaires using our land, our resources, and our tax breaks right here in Texas. Abbott keeps helping the rich get richer while working families get nothing. We pay our taxes, we keep this state running, and all we get is higher costs and empty promises. We don't need welfare. We need fairness. We need leaders who fight for work.
She is spitting facts right now, and nobody in Austin wants to hear it. You got a governor who's out here cutting ribbons and taking pictures with billionaires while regular working Texans are doing math at the grocery store. The whole "we don't need welfare, we need fairness" line hits different. When you realize these aren't lazy people complaining, these are workers, taxpayers, people keeping the lights on in this state, and what they get back is higher costs and a smile at a campaign rally. The audacity of asking for a fair shot while being told to pull yourself up by bootstraps that cost $40 more than they did last year.
Families and not billionaires. It's time to build a Texas that works for us, because Texans don't want handouts. We just want a fair shot.
The Texas 2025 legislative session was a huge failure. However, if you're a Texas billionaire or millionaire, you came out on top. But if you're 99.9% of Texas families, you were screwed. We were all screwed. In fact, the first major vote that we had on the Texas House floor was a forever tax break for Wall Street dealers. So if you're a Texas family who's worried about your property taxes, what did we do to help with grocery prices? What did we do to help with health insurance? What did we do to improve schools? We did little to nothing. This is what your Trump Texas GOP party provided you. We can do better. We must do better, and Texas families deserve better. We have an opportunity to change this. Remember to organize, to register to vote. We must make a change. We're going to continue to fight, but we need your help.
Now, Texas, hold the hell up. Hold the hell up, Texas. Hold the hell up, Texas. What do you mean you passed the bill that my vote is 1/5? What are you talking about? So, y'all, I just heard that Texas passed a bill that now changes the vote for black people to 1/5 and for Hispanic people to 1/3. It takes 5 black people to equal 1 white vote? So you're telling me that now that when I cast my vote, I'm only counted for 1/5? Yeah, I'm gonna have to move back to New York or something. Texas ain't it.
Hey y'all, let's talk Texas, because the cost of living is rising and spreading like wildfire. For example, food prices in Houston right now have grown about 2.6% this year. Across the entire state of Texas, the cost of living essentials have grown 7.8% annually. So essentially what that means is that what $100 got you at the grocery store last year is not getting you the same thing.
BRO, they just casually admitted the whole session was cooked from the start. First major vote on the floor. A forever tax break for Wall Street dealers. Not a grocery relief bill. Not a rent cap. Not a health insurance fix. A tax break for the people who already have everything. And meanwhile, the average Texas family is out here trying to figure out if they can afford both rent and groceries this month. Not both. One or the other. That's not a tough economy. That's a policy choice. Somebody decided this is what Texas families deserve. Remember that next time you hear vote red to keep Texas free. Because free for who exactly?
This year. And check this, it's not even just groceries. Rent prices are growing out of this world. Right now, more than half of the people that are renting in Texas right now 30% of their income is literally going to housing and utilities. And what's crazy about this whole thing is that a lot of us are making way more money than we were making years ago. But the thing is that money's not stretching like it used to. And things we used to buy and grab and go at the grocery store, now we have to do a double take at the price tag just because the prices have doubled since when we used to buy it last year. So whether you live in Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, small town, big town, no matter where you stay, we're all feeling the rising cost of living. And because of that, now is not the time to sit back and just hope that things get better. It's the time to speak up and voice your concerns. So if you're feeling the effects of this, drop a comment. Tell me how the rising cost of living has affected you. Tell me some things that you cut back on and changes that you've made. Because maybe telling our story could move some things forward.
My daddy would always say, he ain't the sharpest tool in the tool shed. It's kind of like not the sharpest pencil in the box kind of thing, you know. And I always thought, what in the world does that mean? And then I thought, I'm not the sharpest tool in that tool shed, I'm sure. But I was scrolling through this app yesterday, and I knew exactly what he meant. Because I came across a MAGA creator who was just real big mad that she is not getting a $600 relief check. And I thought, what in the world is she talking about? So I have to go on over to the Google, and it appears that what she was upset about is she thought she was going to get a $600 check. Every person in the United States was going to receive a $600 check as a refund, so to speak, from money gained from tariffs. I did not hear her elaborate on the price of goods skyrocketing and how that $600 wasn't going to do her much good at all. But she was big mad at Republican members of the Senate, and President Trump had promised that to them. I did not realize that was truly a thing. I remember them talking about it when tariffs first came out, and you just giggle and laugh and go on. But honey, she was big mad.
Okay, so let me get this straight. She voted for the tariff agenda. Prices went up across the board, and her solution was to wait for a $600 check back from the tariff money. Like, babe, that's not a policy win. That's a coupon for the damage they already did to your wallet. And now she's big mad that even the coupon got canceled. But kids losing SNAP benefits, people losing healthcare, families going without. None of that made her big mad. That's what happens when you're an ME voter. You only clock the moment it personally hits your bank account. Your dad's not the sharpest tool in the shed line is doing a lot of heavy lifting right now, and honestly, it deserves a raise.
Big mad. But I was kind of scrolled through some of her content, and she was pure MAGA, but you did not hear her being upset over people losing health care. Anything in the big beautiful bill did not seem to upset her at all. And I always say they're me voters. So she probably had planned something special with her $600 check, and now she knows she's not getting one, so she's big mad because she cares about herself when we have children that are going to go without food because of SNAP benefits and school lunch programs, and we have millions of Americans who are going to lose their health care, which can be life-saving. We all know that. That stuff didn't make her big mad, but damn, that $600 check, woo, she was mad. Y'all, as my daddy says, or said, he's been gone a long time, ain't the sharpest tool in the box. I love y'all. Have a good day.
Latinos are looking for a candidate they can identify with. I am from the Valley. This is where I was born and raised. And what I hear in the Valley is Latinos, like all Texans, want a focus on kitchen table issues. They're concerned about the cost of housing. They're concerned about the cost of groceries. The cost of healthcare is out of reach. Texas has 2 times the rate of uninsured as the national average. Texans are hurting. Texans are struggling. This is Greg Abbott's record. He owns it, and it is time for change. That is the message I'm hearing from Latinos in the Valley, and that is the message I'm hearing all over the state.
So are you guys going to wear those stupid red hats when you're standing in line at the food pantry? because you lost your SNAP benefits and you can't afford to feed your kids because of the guy you voted for, or because your health insurance premiums have gone up so much that you can't afford food, or maybe you lost your job because the economy sucks, because the guy you voted for is an incompetent buffoon who destroys everything he touches? Is that what you're gonna do? You're gonna wear those red hats? Or maybe one of those
She's going in, and honestly, the imagery here is what gets me. Standing in the food pantry line with the MAGA hat on because your SNAP benefits got cut by the guy whose name is on the hat. That's not political satire anymore. That is literally happening to real people in real Texas towns right now. And the Trump 2028 shirt bought with the last bit of money instead of feeding the kids? That's not loyalty. That's a cult membership fee. The gold sneakers line is sending me because those things were like $400 and people bought them. While complaining about egg prices, at some point the cognitive dissonance has to crack. It just has to.
Trump 2028 shirts you bought with the last bit of money you had, instead of buying food for your kids, you bought that Trump 2028 shirt to own the libs. You still got those gold sneakers you bought?
If you feel like you're struggling to pay bills, you're struggling to buy groceries, you're struggling to pay for gasoline, you are not alone. This economy right now is one of the worst it has been in a very long time. They said the average American is spending $300 more than they did at this point last year. They're spending $450 more than they did 2 years ago, and they're spending $650 more than they did 3 years ago. The price of gas, the average price of gasoline right now is $4.70, which is the highest it's been since 2022. The inflation reports, which is the producer price levels, came back at 6% higher than it was a year ago. It came up back at 3.3%, which means that it's going to fall down to the consumers later. So if you feel like you are struggling, you are not the only one. The prices are getting so much more expensive. Inflation is rising, gas prices are rising, but how much money that you are making, earnings are not rising at all. That is staying stagnant. Home prices are rising. Everything is worse right now. So if you are struggling, you are not alone.
Hello, everyone.
$300 more per month than last year. $450 more than 2 years ago. $650 more than 3 years ago. Those aren't just numbers. That's a car payment. That's a utility bill. That's a week of groceries. Just gone. And earnings staying stagnant while everything else climbs is the silent killer that nobody in Washington wants to talk about, honestly. You're technically making more money on paper and somehow broker in real life. That's the inflation trap, and it's squeezing Texas families from every direction at once. If you feel like you're working harder than ever and falling further behind, you are not imagining it. The math just genuinely doesn't work anymore, and that is not your failure.
Rent is too fucking high in Fort Worth, Texas. You'll think we live in California. We're not California. I remember a time when you could pay $600 a month for a good apartment. Now, if you don't sign a motherfucking lease, they're going to charge you an extra $300 or probably more than that. You'll be paying like you paying a mortgage. And sometimes the mortgage payments are cheaper than the apartment rent. What the fuck is going on? We can't stand for this shit. I know the landlords got the right to raise their rent, but they're getting over, and they need to do something about it.
The price for 1 pound of ground beef is now more than the federal minimum wage, guys. How crazy is this? And like, how far are they going to let these grocery prices get before they realize that regular people can just not afford this crap? Like, right now, let's do a comparison. Let's use like a couple big chains at where I live. I'm on the West Coast. So we've got like Albertsons, we've got Vons, we've got Stater Brothers, which I think is kind of like a West Coast thing. All of those are about twice the price of an Aldi, a Walmart, a Winco, a Safeco, or a Heb, or like a Food for Less if you have that. So I will tell you that of all the places that I'm shopping right now, Aldi happens to be my favorite. And no, they don't have everything. And Aldi is like the great value brand at Walmart. And that's all they have in the whole store is the Aldi brand. So there's not as much selection, but I like a lot of the stuff that they have there. So I did a price comparison out here. Stater Brothers, which is down the street from me, has amazing butcher department. The meat department is great. So I went and bought my weekly groceries there, $240. Next week, compared it, same level of groceries, $117.
$240 versus $117 for the same level of groceries. That difference is literally rent money in some parts of Texas, and this is the practical survival tip hiding inside all this economic chaos. Where you shop right now matters as much as what you buy, Aldi, Walmart, Winco. These aren't budget stores anymore, they're smart stores. And there's zero shame in that game. The name brand chains are going to price themselves into irrelevance for most Americans, and they don't even see it coming. If you're still loyal to Albertsons or Kroger out of habit, run that comparison yourself this week. Literally just 1 week, you will be shocked. The people who survive economic squeezes are the ones who adapt fast and drop the ego about where they shop.
Bucks at Aldi. So it's completely insane. I think these big chains like Albertsons, Vons, Staters are going to have major financial problems in the future because you can't keep charging people double for what they can literally get across the street and have people keep paying it. Yes, in wealthy neighborhoods, people are going to pay that. Yeah, you're still going to have them do fine in those areas. But for the majority of Americans,
there's 75,000 fewer students in Texas public education this school year, and public ed is expected to lose even more next year. My name is Lacey Beasley. I'm our lead education reporter at CBS News Texas. It's Tuesday, May 12th. In a state public education committee meeting on Monday in Austin, the Texas Education Agency said this is the largest single-year drop they've seen in years. And by next school year, a demographer predicts that public education will lose 120,000 students or more. And why? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Enrollment in charter schools, virtual schools, private schooling, and homeschooling is up while birth rates are down. Demographers who testified in Austin also say that Texas Education Freedom Accounts will also have an impact. This is the statewide program that gives eligible families vouchers to send their students to private school. Some campuses are not operating at full capacity, and districts are working with really tight budgets. Add that on top of when there's a drop in student enrollment, there's also a drop in state funding for the district. So that means a lot of districts statewide have had to turn to the really tough decision to close campuses. Fort Worth, Austin, Corpus Christi, and so many other districts statewide are shutting down schools. So the bottom line and the pattern is fewer students means fewer campuses.
Grocery prices are higher than ever, so the last thing we needed was a tomato shortage hitting our supermarkets across the country. But that's exactly what has happened. There's a nationwide tomato shortage. As a result, those that are in stock are almost double in price. Now, we've been told the reason for this is because the Queensland tomato season has been delayed for whatever reason, probably the growing conditions. So you're going to find tomatoes pretty expensive until around mid-May. At Coles, the cheapest tomatoes this week are $10.90 per kilo. Woolies and Aldi have some slightly cheaper versions, but they're not the quality you're used to. Other shortages, beetroot and potatoes. Now, beetroot's a bit of a mystery. Our fruit and veg expert wasn't able to explain that one. He felt maybe they didn't plant enough or there's some transport issues, but potatoes had a terrible 2025 season, especially the washed varieties. You're going to find that they're a little bit expensive throughout the year. The grape season continues to be abundant and will for another month. They're really affordable, so you can stock up. Also, lots of citrus hitting supermarket shelves, including the first Imperial mandarins. Apple's still pretty pricey, but switch to citrus and you'll be fine.
I'll tell you, for example, when Obamacare went into place, it took my own family of 5 health insurance policy from $800 a month to over $2,400 a month, more than our mortgage payment. And that's what so many people have experienced over all these years. But here's the big problem, is it's about to skyrocket in January of 2025. Here's why I'm angry. The Democrats passed Obamacare, but yet the Republicans have never done anything to correct the problems that exist with it. And I blame my own party. That's absolutely wrong. And I don't think it's an easy thing to fix. However, it's something that we should have a plan for. And Mike Johnson, for a month now, cannot give me a single policy idea. And I'm angry about that.
Wait. A Republican just said out loud that he blames his own party for the healthcare mess, and that is actually the most honest thing we've heard in this whole video, $800 to $2,400 a month for one family's health insurance. More than the mortgage. That's not a bug in the system. That's the system working exactly as designed. And he's right that the GOP has had years to fix it and came up with nothing. Mike Johnson can't give a single policy idea after a month, and this guy's angry about it. Good, he should be. The problem is being angry in a TikTok comment versus actually primarying. These people are two very different things. Accountability only works when there are actual consequences, and right now the people causing the damage keep getting reelected, so here we are.
A victim has defensive wounds on them. What exactly does that mean and prove? Let's talk about it. When examiners say that a victim had defensive wounds, it means that the body shows signs of trying to protect life, either on purpose or by pure reflex. So where do they show up the most? Well, usually hands, fingers, forearms, because that's what you throw up to either block hits or a blade. And you'll hear about cuts on palms or fingers from grabbing a knife or pushing it away, bruises and fractures on the forearms, especially the outer edge of the ulna classic nightstick blocks, broken or torn nails, skin under the nails with someone else's DNA, and scratch marks from clawing at an attacker. Grip bruises on their wrists or upper arms from literally being grabbed and yanked, and legs can also show it if the person was kicking to try and create space. But you can also get clues from the weapon used itself. There's sharp force, which is long, shallow slices on the hands or forearms, nicks on fingers from grabbing the blade, parallel block cuts. There's blunt force with deep bruising, swelling, fractures where arms met impacts. For firearms, true defensive wounds are much less common, but you might see close range stippling on forearms if they raise their arm at the muzzle, or grip bruises from struggling over the weapon. Now, let's talk about being awake versus asleep. Defensive wounds do not require someone to be fully awake. The brain's threat circuit can fire on autopilot. Even half asleep, stunned, or in shock, people flinch. They shield their face, curl in, or reach up. That reflex alone can create defensive wounds. Now, here's what defensive wounds don't mean by themselves. They don't reveal the whole scene. Examiners match injuries with the context. So a wrecked room, displaced bedding, blood patterns, restraint marks, or a super clean, silent scene with zero struggle. The label defensive is about pattern, location, and timing, not just one cut. Timing matters. To call it defensive, injuries need signs of vital reaction. So bleeding under the skin, tissue response, meaning they happened before death. So post-mortem damage does not count. And the absence of these wounds also don't mean that there was no fight. No defensive wounds can mean several things. The attack was a surprise.
Okay, so this segment took a sharp left turn from grocery prices into forensic science. And honestly, the parallel is kind of haunting. Defensive wounds are the body's right record of resistance. And when there are none, it can mean the attack was too fast, too trusted, too sudden to fight back. Sounds a lot like what happened to working-class Texas voters who trusted a system that they moved too fast for them to react before the damage was done. By the time the snap cuts hit, by the time the rent spiked, by the time the health insurance tripled, it was already too late to block it. The body becomes evidence that fights for itself. After the fact, and maybe that's what all these videos are, everyday people recording their reality so the record exists. Because somebody has to document what actually happened here.
Fast and fatal. The person was asleep, intoxicated, drugged, medically compromised, restrained, attacked from behind, or they just never had time to react. But it can also happen if the attacker was trusted, so the first move wasn't read as lethal. Lookalikes that examiners separate, such as hesitation or tentative cuts, these are often superficial, grouped, and usually self-inflicted. They are not defensive. Accidental post-event damage, so these can mimic slashes, pattern, and depth expose this. Defensive wounds on the suspect, such as scratches on the face and forearms, bite marks, torn cuticles, often pair with a victim's defensive patterns. So why does any of this matter? Well, defensive wounds help reconstruct timeline and behavior. The victim's perceived danger tried to block, grab, or escape. They can carry trace evidence, attacker's DNA under nails, fibers, hair, turning the body into evidence that literally fights for them after the fact. So there you have it. Defensive wounds are the body's record of resistance or protection, whether they were deliberate or reflexive. Powerful, but it's only one piece of the puzzle.